Hello and welcome to Dish Shelved with Adam White. Today I'm going to talk about Planetary Agent X by Mack Reynolds and a small Reynolds book haul. So I'll get to this book first and then I'll show you the reason I got the other ones too. Um, this book, Planetary Agent X, was originally uh, published in Analog magazine under two parts called Ultima Thule and Pistolero. So it was what was known as a fix-up book, which is where they took shorter stories from the magazines that they'd wrote and put them together and made uh, a book out of them. That The Forgotten World by Murray Leinster was a fix-up book, but I thought it really read as one novel. Uh, so that was interesting. This one didn't even pretend to work as one novel. It was just there was two parts in the book, and as you can see, there's two books in here. Uh, but it was they didn't even pretend that it was one novel. There was two. There was part one and part two, which were the two different stories, and but they were both good, and they both had the same main character in them. Ronnie Bronston. He is a member of Planetary Section G, I believe it was called, where he wants to become an agent where he travels to other worlds because Earth is boring to him. So the first one is kind of his induction into the Section G, and both stories involve a manhunt. The first one is about Tommy Paine, who was named after Thomas Paine of the American Revolution. They said that they didn't really know what his name was, but since Thomas Paine had been a member of several revolutions, that they nicknamed him Tommy Paine because this guy or group or whatever it was involved in revolutions on multiple planets, and that was the first rule of the United Planets, was that you didn't interfere in other planets' business, which is what this uh, Tommy Paine was doing. So they send their new recruit Ronnie Bronston after Tommy Paine, and it's his job to come up with him or them, and it involves his work looking for going to different planets looking for this Tommy Paine, and it turns out really interesting. It was a really fun story. I mean, it's not the best book I've ever read, but it was very entertaining. Uh, I sort of saw what was coming towards the end of that first story, but I wasn't quite sure. But it worked out in a way that I thought was really clever, and the characters were very interesting, and everything was just a lot of fun. Now the second story is another manhunt about where Ronnie Bronston is after an assassin named Billy Antrim. He's a young man from another planet who comes to Earth and assassinates someone, and there's no murder or assassination or anything like that on Earth anymore, and they can't let it slide because things like that just don't happen on Earth anymore. So it's a matter of him chasing down this Billy Antrim, and it's a totally different story than the first one. But it still has Ronnie Bronston as the main character, and you get to learn a lot about this Billy Antrim as well. He spends some time. Part of the chapters are on Billy Antrim, so you get to see kind of what's going on with his world too. Uh, but really fun stories. Uh, really got a kick out of them. I love vintage science fiction. And Planetary Agent X, I don't know why they call it that because he was never referred to as Agent X or anything like that. So I'm not really sure on the title. And like I said, they didn't even try to disguise that it was two separate stories. Uh, but it worked. It was a fun two stories. I really liked both of them, and I would recommend them. You have to find them in old paperbacks. This one was from, I believe, 1967. Yes, because it was this Rival Rigelians, which actually is the third book in this series. Now, this leads into my book haul for Mack Reynolds. I got this book because it had Planetary Agent X, and that's book number one. Then I got Dawn Man Planet, which is book two. I'm not entirely sure if, and some of these are double books too. So they've got other uh, Inherit the Earth in this one by Claude Nunes. But I mainly got him for the Mack Reynolds books. So this is Dawn Man Planet, which is book two in this United Planets series. And I don't know if it has Ronnie Bronston in it or not. I'm not sure based on the few little bit that I've read about these other ones, but it all deals with the same shared universe. So Dawn Man Planet was book two. Then back to the Rival Rigelians, which is book three. So I got book one and book three in this one. So that was nice. And so that's book three of the series. Then I got Code Duello, which is book four. I actually got it on Kindle, uh, but it was the only one of the series that was available on Kindle, which I didn't know at the time. I just had seen this book and thought it looked interesting and got it on Kindle, and then saw that it was part of a series and it was book four. And the I was at a convention and saw this book and thought, well, I have all the other ones in paperback, so I might as well go ahead and pick up this one. This is a double book too, The Age of Ruin it comes with. But again, mainly I got it for Code Duello. So that's book four by Mack Reynolds of the United Planets stories. Book five is Amazon Planet. Again, I'm not really sure. This one says it's about somebody named Guy Thomas, so it doesn't look like Ronnie Bronston might be the main character in all these. But it's all part of the same United Planets series. It's a shared universe, and Amazon Planet is book five. Book six is called Section G United Planets, which is again what it's the section that Ronnie Bronston was part of, so it obviously comes back into play if it hasn't been in the others. But this is book six, and the last book, book seven, is called Brain World. And this one actually has Ronnie Bronston, it says in the back of it. So it ends up in book seven, which is the final book in the series, with Ronnie Bronston again, which is good because he was a fun character. He was just a good guy, but he was smart, and he was a really good tracker of criminals. But Brain World, that's book seven and the final book in the series. I also got this, which is Masters of Science Fiction, Volume 4, which is Mack Reynolds Part 1. It's a book of his short stories. It is, it's got, let me see here. It's got quite a few stories in it there, as you can see. And the Stowaway is the one that's on the cover, which is originally what led me to this one. I read about a story called Stowaway that was supposed to be a good short story by Mack Reynolds. This has it in it. The cover is the cover for the magazine that it was originally in, and it's got, like I said, like I showed you, tons of other stories in here too. So anyway, that's my Mack Reynolds book haul. On top of reading the first book in the series, I look forward to reading the others in the series. And like I said, if you want to check this out, most of them you'll just are just old vintage paperbacks, and so you'll probably have to track them down that way. The ones I got weren't very expensive at all. You can probably find them for a few bucks a piece. But I really enjoyed the first one, Planetary Agent X, and I'm looking forward to reading the other ones. And I'm glad that I got all those books, and I wanted to share those with you today because book hauls apparently do better than reviews in these booktube videos. So I thought I'd throw a little bit of both into this one. But anyway, thanks for hanging out with me this week, and I will see you again next week.